We are live, Fano. Peace, brothers and sisters. This is ALTBAYS Show, brought to you by ALTBAYS.nz. This is show number 62. It's been an amazing journey so far. Thanks for your support. The best thing you can do to keep us ready and full of energy to keep running these shows is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell your friends to do the same, okay? Support our platform. We have our profiles on Facebook, on Instagram. We are part of all pretty much the podcast platforms, pretty much all of them: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. So maybe you are listening to this show right now on your headphones, doing whatever, washing the dishes or telling the kids off, something like that. It's very nice to see you here tonight. Let me think. On my left,
Fabian Roberts.
I was trying to remember your name.
That's all good. Often I just get called Oi at work, or Mr.
Really?
Very rarely,
The kids
infrequently,
call
I
you
guess.
Oi?
Yeah.
Really?
Oi, can you help me? That sort of thing, yeah. That's good.
Probably because they also forget your name sometimes, not because they dislike you or anything.
Yeah, I get Mr. Robertson a lot.
Robertson?
Yeah, it's like, just Roberts. Occasionally kids will be like, oh, Jesus. And I go, no, Mr. Roberts will do. It's one of my dad jokes I like to use from time to time.
Anyone else that calls you Roberto, apart from me?
Just you.
Cool. Soanes and Roberto. Great, eh? Wow.
I struggle to roll my R's a lot. Like, and then I stop. If you do vocal lessons, you have to like and keep going, but I can't do it.
Can't do it. Gotta practice, man. How's your singing, by the way?
Haven't done much lately.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro. Injured my finger, and so I wasn't able to play piano for so long, and that was a big downer. So I didn't really sing. I sing and play when I practice. Yeah, more of an accompanying myself type piano player.
It's good that you can sing at work, at least, right? Walking around the school and singing, because that was not allowed.
Yeah. Today on duty, going around the front of the school, through the middle of the school, I had a guitar, just playing some songs. Yep, irritating people, trying to have conversation, just stand there next to them playing guitar. It's good fun.
How was for you to get used to those sirens in Whitianga when you're teaching or in the middle of the day and suddenly that very loud siren?
When I
goes off?
first got here, sort of 5 years ago, I'd been told what the siren was, and so I'd be teaching in class, it was woo, I'll just freeze. And it went down, and we can keep going now. You'd always have the freeze. Just wait for it. Oh, is it lingering? Is it 1 second too long? Is it 2 seconds? Why is it not going? It's going down.
Yes.
So yeah. So if you're listening right now, we're in Whitianga. We have these sirens, emergency sirens, community sirens. Woo! Sort of like an old klaxon. When they go up and down, you know that there's police, fire, rescue, whatever happens. But if it stays up, coming here 5 years ago, if the siren didn't go down, tsunami. Evacuate. So
it's
a big deal at a school to do that as well. Lots of responsibility. So yeah, whenever it went off, I'd notice you couldn't really sing or play, or it did get in the way.
we got a very interesting man here to talk to tonight, and probably he will take us through this siren thing, which is so relevant for our area. With us tonight, Mr. David Yeomans. Hi, David.
Good evening, and thank you so much for allowing me to come on your show.
Oh man, what a pleasure. Thanks for coming.
So eloquent as well. You speak so beautifully.
Oh. Is that going to be a problem?
No,
it's great.
it's great. How are you, David?
I'm very well. It's been an exciting day. I just had a reunion with a friend I hadn't seen for 15 years, Mr. Roy Jiggins, who came out from Spain, and we spent lunchtime together. Reminiscing and doing what old guys do is remember all the things that we ought not to remember.
Sounds like fun. What were you eating as you remembered these bad things?
I was having a scone.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
Sweet? Savoury?
No, it was orange.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you were a butter or margarine person with your scone?
I'm a traditional Kiwi. Everything has to be natural products. And because my family are farmers, I can't say the word margarine.
Ah. Can you say olive oil spread? Because technically olive oil is also natural.
Yes, I could do that, but
So apparently margarine is grey, and they put coloring to make that color. Have you heard about that?
no, I haven't. But I have heard that margarine is one step away from plastic.
Yeah, it won't go off, apparently. If you leave it sitting, bugs won't touch it.
Oh, just like a McDonald's hamburger.
Yeah, my man. I already like you.
Okay. You can put it in a cabinet and come back 20 years and it looks the same.
It'll be there. You can serve it again if you're smart hospitality on it.
Just nuke it.
If you are listening, you can actually search that up. Search up cheeseburger after 5 years, cheeseburger after 1 year, 10 years, see what happens. And it's indiscernible sometimes. If they scramble them up, you might be thinking, oh, if it looks slightly more crinkled, is that freshly baked bread? Is it waxy and smooth? It's very strange.
Yeah, a lot of American schools have put that in their foyers, and the population traffic goes past, and they all look at it, and after a while, they don't take any notice of it, but it still looks pristine.
Wow. So would you be keen to see some fast foods coming to our area? Well, Pauanui, it's actually not. It is close. It is close to us. I think we can all be considered Coromandel, Pauanui as well.
As one, Coromandel, yes. The place that's good for your soul.
Yes.
As advertised.
Should we see more and more fast foods around here? There's a big push for that.
Not particularly. I'm more of a person that likes cafe de curb type culture. Nothing better than sitting outside al fresco, eating, enjoying the local foods, local produced foods. What better things could happen?
That's right.
It's interesting, though, that the concept of fast food, because you consider, the large chains to be the devil. They're the devil. We'll never have them. They're disgusting. They're made of blah, blah, blah. And, the whole concept of it comes so quickly. How could it have been cooked properly? It's just being steamed. But then conversely, you get to a market and you want to go, I'll get one of those freshly baked tacos in this place. And, it's fast food. Yes. You line up at a carnival, they'll make you fast food. And you go, this is the best thing ever. It's amazing. It's so quick, so easy. You just walk straight up to the counter, they make it for you in 2 minutes.
Yeah, but you didn't make it.
No.
You're just the consumer.
Mm. So is it that we're hating the man, the big product? We hate McDonald's, we hate those big ones. But if it's a small local chain making fast food, we're okay with that.
Why not?
I think we have to be careful because I heard about McDonald's putting shows down. Can you believe it? The evil clown put shows down. So you got to be careful what we say. Not that we care, honestly, man. Fuck you, McDonald's.
Sorry, what?
Okay. Oh, sorry.
How do they do that? What?
By the way, David, you can say, yeah. You can say whatever you want here. Just a reminder. Okay. When did you dive deep into the Tsunami Siren cause? Because it's a very important and relevant thing to our area. We had Thomas Everth coming here to our show, which was amazing. And he talks about possibilities, if there is a possibility, especially such a devastating one of what could happen in case of a tsunami, we should take things very seriously. So I think the cause you're going for, it's quite an important one for all of us. When did you get into it?
Well, it all started when, for me, when our administrator of the Pauanui Ratepayers and Residents Association identified a document which had been produced by the TCDC, and she was surfing on their site, and there had been a meeting where they declared that they were going to disconnect the sirens. At the same time, that piece of information also became knowledge to a very prominent local in your community, Linda Chumley-Smith, who created a Facebook page and started to question the council's responsibility by making those decisions without talking to anybody. And I contacted Linda and asked if I could be of help. And that has been a snowball activity with trying to find out what the decisions were. So the council made a decision on their own, that's 9 people, made a decision on behalf of a 30,000 population of Coromandel not to talk to people on the Coromandel about a safety issue that is essentially puts everybody in harm's way. So we end up with the sirens being, for tsunami purposes only, being disconnected. And just to specify, we had about 29 sirens. They were coincidentally linked to the Fire Emergency New Zealand Service, so that's FENZ, so your fire station had a siren which was dual purpose. Usually, if it's a call to crews to come and attend the station, it's usually 45 seconds worth of duration. For tsunamis, they were put up and they stayed up for a long time. There is a technical limit to those kinds of sirens. They can't run forever because they overheat. Coincidentally with that decision, the decision from Fire Emergency New Zealand, they came around and spoke to a lot of people on the peninsula, and their voice was, we do not like other government agencies interfering with our primary purpose of alerting.
So they own those sirens?
Correct. Yes.
Fins own them.
Correct. Yes. They are operated by friends. Up until the decision not to allow them to be used for tsunami purposes, they were able to be controlled by other agencies. So NEMA, so that's the National Emergency Management Agency or Authority, I can't remember, doesn't matter. So they were able to activate. Now we have a man in Thames who had the activation on his phone.
Does he drink? No, carry on.
That's another story.
Does he sleep?
Yes. There is a protocol. If you are in a secure position within an authority, there is a protocol that if you're on duty, you're not allowed to drink and you're not allowed to provide answers to questions, because if you've been drinking, that's not appropriate.
Fair enough.
So anyway, the long story short, we were given a time of September of 21 when they were going to be switched off and the remote access would no longer be available.
So can I just rewind a smidgen? So this document was searched through and was also became known to Linda. And what was the decision that was outlined by the 9 people? Because they would say, we'd no longer do this. Was it simply a declaration of this? Or was there a plan that they stated would replace that current system?
No, they didn't. Everybody is working on the premise that the NEMA product, which is the mobile alert, which is on your phone, will save the day. Anybody who lives in and around the Coromandel will also tell you clearly that phone access is not always available. It's a bit hit and miss.
So their document stated, we're going to rely on the phone system team. 9 people high-fived, and they moved on.
No, not quite right. No.
Cool. Because
Okay.
I want to steel man them. I want to get their strongest position.
Okay, you want to get the strongest position. Their position is that they were directed to do this, which is not clearly true. NEMA, National Emergency Management Authority, produced a document which said sounds for tsunamis have to be of a same tone. Now, studies had already been done about sirens in New Zealand, and depending on where you were, Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, all sirens were being used for different purposes and for different durations. So you can't change on a mechanical, electromechanical siren, you can't change the tone. It's one tone. It's the only thing you can change is the duration.
I was just picturing that the word tone is used in such a lovely way as getting out of a chair if you've been in it for 4 hours.
Yes.
It's an easy tone, as opposed to angelic tones. Is it the frequency pitch?
It's they have limitations on, and one of them is just the tone. So they wind up, they stay up. You can leave them on until they burn out. Probably about 20 minutes. We'll see that, and that's about the limit of it. So I've just
So they declared that because NEMA saying because there's so much variation, so much interpretation of use, let's do away with that system for such an emergency as a tsunami.
Yeah, what they're saying is there are standard for sirens, for tsunami sirens. So it was produced 2014, came the national standard, but they didn't talk about new technologies. They did say that if there's going to be, they made some recommendations that some of the sirens could have voice-over. So modern technology sirens now have the capability of 10 siren tones or sounds, and you can put any kind of voiceover that you like.
What would you recommend? Run!
Run!
To the hills!
Well, you could do anything you like, preferably it's something that people would take notice of.
True.
And be meaningful for that purpose. And lots of councils have done that. So Auckland's done that for Aotearoa. So they've done that. But the point being is that the council have repeatedly said they were ordered to do this. But that's not quite true. If you had a program to retain sirens as part of the public alerting service, you would then work towards having money for that replacement, and then you would look at what type of replacement siren that you should have for the area. And of course, there's a cost to that. So they're faced with replacing sirens. So do you, basically, if you were going to replace the 29 sirens, you would have to have 29 new sirens. And what is the price? So the costing that came out went from approximately 5 million to 11 million for replacement of sirens, which is
absurd.
Which would scare anybody.
It's a lot of time.
So in the process, in the writings, I used a process called Lagoma, which is a legal process to obtain documents. Because of my past background as an investigator,
which we need to get into at some point. That sounds exciting.
That was a natural fallback position that if you can find the documents, travel through the conversations, identify what was said, then we can have a meaningful conversation. So that happened. And they eventually wrote to me with 4 points based on their pragmatic decision not to talk to anybody. And that was the cost. That was also the effectiveness of sirens, and that's a hoot. Then new technologies, and a little bit of what I find disturbing, that there was some issue about we ought not to be worried because science is telling us we ought not to be worried unless we have a 9G tsunami immediately off the coast within 1 hour or 2 hours.
Now they believe in science.
Sorry, just on that third, so you cost, the effectiveness into the research of, but then new technologies. Does that simply mean, someone's going to have to learn how to bloody work this thing? Was that what new technologies means?
You're pretty close.
Because it's just like, how's that an issue?
Well,
new technology. Yes, go on.
Okay, we'll come to that.
All right.
Okay, you're
I like that.
taking away my story.
Oh, good.
So the cost.
Yeah.
So the only way to find out cost, I asked them, did you do your due diligence? Did you do 3 quotes? The answer came back, no. We did have meetings. They sent me a whole lot of stuff, which I can't use because it becomes an issue of privacy. But they couldn't remember what the costs were. Point 1, I better go and find out what the costs were. Found out who makes sirens, went around the world, found some companies, asked them, lots of Zoom meetings, lots of Skype meetings, and basically, what is the cost of a siren? So the cost of a siren starts off at $60,000 and goes up to $90,000. This is 2021 process I'm talking about. And then became the realization you have to put them in the ground. And so there's about a buffer of $10,000 per unit. So a $60,000 unit becomes a $70,000 installation. Same with the $80,000 becomes a $90,000 unit. So that doesn't add up to 5 million, nor does it add up to 11 million. So basically...
Not by some margin there.
In my opinion, the population of the Coromandel was misled by those statements. Then came the shocking issue about why is it costing so much? Or we need to have more sirens. And they produced this chart, which is a upper part of the Coromandel. It's got dots all over it, and that represented 45 sirens. So the question was asked, how did we get from 29 sirens to now we need 45 sirens? So did you do a study? So is there a business case? Is there a safety case for that increased number? The answer is no. How did you arrive at that number? It was intended and deemed to be 45. Now, that's not a business case.
Sorry, do you mean initially it was intended when they were first made, or just they just declared it?
So it was declared 45. We need 45 sirens.
Because to me it looks like a pretty good connect the dots activity. Like, honestly, if you gave that to me, I could number that for my daughter and get her to do connect the dots, and I could say, so where's that?
Yeah, so that was a bit of a startling revelation, is that so in a business process, and that's how you end up with $11 million. Because, and I think...
Oh, I know he doesn't need two.
Well, in reality, once upon a time, it had 4.
Woo.
Now, I want you to remember that number because it becomes important in the next part of the conversation.
Good.
So going back, so the cost was exaggerated. The numbers of sirens were exaggerated. Then out of the woodwork came sirens aren't effective. So the question was asked, how do you know that? So I did the research for all of the country, trying to find out who had conducted effectiveness issues on sirens. I can't find it. I'm still looking, but lo and behold, in the world there is one group of people that's called the United States Atomic Research Commission, who did produce a paper on the effectiveness of sirens when one of the nuclear power plants went crazy. So they made a standard. So no one's even mentioned that in our discussion. Well, we used that model. Well, you didn't. So the question came, well, how effective are they? Well, sirens are 44% effective. So where did you get that number from? Because it's very interesting. So it found out that it was a GNS science paper, which was put out on a study for the Bay of Plenty. And this is a cost-effective siren analysis. But it comes with what other things are cost-effective. So we ended up with billboards. Now, I can tell you this, from their research, is that billboards are 47% more effective. And so it goes on. So you end up with police cars with their lights on and broadcasting are 66% effective.
Okay.
Effective. Just we've got to find the police force in numbers to be able to do that if there's a calamity. So
I just love that stat absolutely means nothing. Oh, there's a billboard that talks about tsunamis. Well, that's helpful.
Yes. So for our ratepayer dollars, and ratepaying has become an issue for the Coromandel. I think it was between $280, not particularly correct, but $280 to $320,000. So on every public toilet on the Coromandel, there should be a sign to tell you where to run to if there is a tsunami. Now, I'm sure you would believe that that sign is going to alert you. So if you see a sign running down the road with its attachments jingling, that's a very worrying sign.
Yeah. It's It's interesting. I mean, because it's just an absurd statement.
Yeah, so when I questioned GNS Science about this, and I asked them, where did you get this piece of material? They identified that it wasn't theirs. But I said it's in a publication that you put, and I was directed to the disclaimer for the document. So the disclaimer of the document has so many caveats of don't blame me, and the information in this booklet is it can't really be trusted. Right. You'd have to wonder why they published it, but nevertheless they did. So they ended up with this piece of paper which identifies all the things that have various percentages of effectiveness.
Could you please print this smaller next time? That'd be really helpful.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
What's the effectiveness of the cell phones?
Well, the effectiveness of cell phones range from it's improved over a period of time. Should advocate that there is a program to increase the rural connectivity of phones right throughout the Coromandel, and it's gradually gone up. It would be interesting to hear what the statistics were on the last test.
Do you think it costs less for the government to pay the mobile phone services to provide that than actually the siren? Did you go deep as well on the prices to generate these messages on the phone?
No, I have not. It's something which we could look at.
Just because there's surely some interest there, right, for people to generate that service, right? Yeah.
But we all know that in previous surveys and going back to the one that we had recently, it'd be interesting to see what the percentage is. So it's gradually been improved. So I think the last on that document is about 84%, which means that it gets a pretty good coverage. But there's the issues.
Is this designed for the Coromandel?
No.
Is it 84% of Coromandel's population?
No.
That's what it's clearly not. I do love how, as one of the indicators, natural warnings. So if the ground is shaking, it's more effective than a siren. Okay, I
can live with that.
I can live with that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be hard to run with the ground shaking. Right?
But this document, which is from a Bay of Plenty study, was used for the Coromandel. So there's been no effectiveness testing of sirens in the Coromandel. And go back to the number 4 in Pawanui, we had at one time 4 sirens, and no one knows what the effectiveness is, but I've done the audio range rings on those, and every part of Pawanui is covered by the sound propagation.
How did you go about doing that? I'm very curious about that process.
We just followed the advice from the new manufacturers making these things. They have a rule that says the minimum distance of propagation is 1.8 kilometres for their sirens. And depending on...
That's the minimum.
That's the minimum. And depending on where they're strategically located as to the range or overlapping. So you may need more than one. But if you put it in a good place at a higher level, you'll get a better range. But all of those things are dependent on where you are and what the environment is doing. So if you're hiding behind a building, or no, that's wrong, sheltering behind a building, presume something, sheltering behind a building or in the lee of a forest or in the lee of a hill range, you may not hear that. In Pawanui, we also close proximity to Tairua, and the siren activation is quite different. Ours in Pawanui goes up and stays up for 45 seconds. The one in Tairua goes up and down. So that because they are likely to be heard in both towns, you don't want the Tairua crew coming out when the Pawanui one is going off, because if they were the same.
So what I'm getting from this, there's clearly room for a proper audit, proper research of all of them, and come up with a Coromandel-wide system yes, there's room put the money into it, but actually come up with a system that works, user-friendly for the people that live here.
Correct.
So that should have been done.
Should have been
That
done.
was the step that is being missed.
So the effectiveness of sirens becomes, the document is, in my opinion, worthless because it doesn't relate to the Coromandel. And even by their own admission from the people who produced that document, that information is not theirs. I can't reveal who belongs to it, but they put that in. So then we get the effectiveness of sirens. So that's been, that's hogwash. Then we go on to new technologies.
Sorry, so we're on through. So we had cost. It was misleading. Exponentially misleading. And then effectiveness, completely misleading, irrelevant information, and irrelevant stats.
Correct.
Cool.
And then we come to new technologies.
Yeah.
So we end up with what are the things that are going to keep us alive? Well, the phone is going to help keep us alive. There are other things. We have one of the best radio stations in the world. In fact, in New Zealand, Coromandel CFM, privately owned, and broadcasts all of those things that we need to know that keep us safe. They came on air. So there's radio, TV. We take these things for granted because they're everyday components to a public safety system. And this is, can the camera see this?
Can we explain what it is? Because we also have our listeners, but we can give it a go.
So we're looking at a pie graph.
If you show to this camera,
that's the pie graph, right? Okay. Okay. Cool. So out of that componentry, there's the emergency mobile alert owned by NEMA, activated when they see fit. That's an interesting comment. Must come back to that.
See fit. Got it.
Okay. Whisper, which is, what's Whisper? Whisper is a cloud-based component which allows multiple activations of lots of equipment. So it can come by SMS, on your computer, on a website, emails, the works. It can be pre-programmed to have a profiling. So when there's emergency, it can target a particular audience, a particular district. It's new technology. It's coming. They said it would be here by Christmas. It's been delayed a little bit. It's now being given out to 11 districts in the Waikato region, Thames, Coromandel District Council, Emergency Management Unit is tailoring it for Coromandel's needs. So we'll see it come out perhaps in July, and it will be renamed with something. I don't know what it is. But that's another piece of the toolbox that keeps us safe. We also have the Red Cross app. They've improved their ability to push notifications. We also have GeoNet. That's another piece that's going to happen. But not everybody has this because
I was just about to say that. People don't have that.
Well, it's like saying of councils generally. We told the population that. We told the public that. Where did you put that? We put that on our website. I don't know very many people who troll through council websites. I do, but then again...
Well, that's because you're a weirdo, Dave, obviously.
Yes, I'll go along with that. So we've got... I made this graph is that if you have a pie graph of the stuff that's available...
Yeah, I was just...
And you take away the sirens... The system is not complete, and we've had going through some of the council websites. There's some very poor information there. One of the websites actually says that sirens cause heart attacks. So they will be receiving a letter from me asking them to remove that because that's simply not true. A rate bill from TCDC will prompt a heart attack.
Yeah. Car horns. We've got to ban all car horns. They could cause a heart attack.
Yes.
Yeah. All young children are banned because they could make a loud noise and cause a heart attack. Let's ban children, car horns, and sirens.
So whatever tool there is available, whatever new tool becomes available, we should embrace that. But we're putting all your eggs in one basket is not a wise move, as we know from our own human experiences. But I got to say this. In this process of new technologies, we were promised a thing called the internal alerting device. Now, this device was a plug that you plug in, you put it into your house, and when activated would tell you what the emergency was. And if you had to evacuate, you would take that unit out of your house and go wherever it told you to go. And it would last for about 3 days with continuous updates. That was budgeted for a considerable sum of monies, and it got squashed. It was just turned off. And the question that I asked is, what happened to it? We weren't told.
What research should have been done to deem this to be less effective?
Well, there's, and we will never know, because that decision was made from a meeting which is called public excluded. So we will never be able to find out the reasons behind that.
That pie graph's really interesting. The idea of having, geotech, whisper, having the NEMIS system, having all of that. That sounds like a really nice idea. So let's shut off the sirens 2-3 years before it all comes into effect.
Yes.
That's a bit of an absurd statement to make when I just say it like that, isn't it?
Yes. It's chronically silly.
It's like saying, you're a little bit cold at the moment. Don't worry. We'll take your jersey off now and you'll warm up.
Yes.
We'll just build the house. We're just going to build the house around you. We're going to construct a fireplace, but it has to be concreted in. So we'll wait 18 months for the house to be built, and you'll warm up then.
Yeah, so...
that's an analogy.
So the effectiveness has also been questioned. And the alerting system, the national alerting system, has not done as well in 2 occasions. So in March of last year, when we had that successive amount of earthquakes that started in the morning, ended around about 8, and the messaging that came from that was delayed. Then we have the Tonga incident in January of this year, and again, I did ask why wasn't a text message sent out to say the volcano has erupted, keep away from the sea. People in harbours should be aware that there could be tidal surges. That didn't come out at all, because one of the commentaries that came is that we only give alerts on the phone if it's going to inundate land. Now that comes out of their operations manual, and I've read the operations manual a lot. They forgot the 3 words, and marine areas. So the people in harbours were not warned that there was the likelihood of strange tides, tidal flows, and so we end up with a town north here. Can't remember what it was, but so it damaged. About 8 boats turned over. Fortunately, no one lost their lives, but a simple warning is that for those people who are living on boats in the harbour, be prepared to evacuate, watch the space. But that didn't come. So the question is, we've had 2 events where the National Emergency Management Alert, in my opinion, was used inappropriately. It should have been a lot clearer, a lot simpler. And one of the funniest things, if there is a funny thing about devastation, is a scientist coming on TV to say when the volcano went, well, that was a surprise. They've been monitoring it since December. There's no warming up to say this event is happening. It could blow, and when it did, we end up with that comment coming from an area of government which is supposed to be watching what's happening in the Pacific, especially with the Kermadec Trench. And that's the downside of being informed, is that you end up with too much information. is that we now know more and more information about the Kermadec Trench, what's happening in it, who's monitoring it, how close it can be. So White Island basically is the end of the volcano chain for that area. And then that's been taken over by the Hikurangi Trench, which goes down past Wellington, down the coast of South Island. So we're quite vulnerable, but we're also vulnerable to the fact that we know too much about it.
Can you feel any change now that you guys are pushing this and getting more people involved? Because usually politicians in the government, they wait for things to come up, for the people to start to make noise, to take action. Can you feel that there's been a response?
Well, we need to, the correspondence has been forwarding to the council to ask if we can meet. We need to have another discussion on this. We were told at one time, the mandate that was given to us to explore every avenue about sirens, even to the point where, say, Whitianga, could the residents of Whitianga put up, buy their own siren and put it up? So we explored that as well. The answer when we went to council was you can't put a siren on council land. We won't allow you to do that. And I said, what about the existing poles? No, you can't use the existing poles. So we went through legal process to establish that council-owned land is kept in trust by them for us, the people of the Coromandel. Can we access the poles? There has been a reversal of that decision that says if we made an application, we could access council land and we could reuse the poles. But this comes
of course, that application, you have to trawl through the website to try and find it somewhere. They won't tell you it's there.
It's called, needs a consent, resource consent process. But that comes with a caveat of if this, the town can, or the group, or if there was an amalgamation of groups, could prove that they could manage sirens. And if NEMA approved it, well, I've already been down that track. NEMA and the Waikato Regional Council have firmly identified that the responsibility for having sirens on the peninsula rests with the Civil Defence Emergency Management Unit in Thames. I've asked them specifically what laws and powers that they have would they exercise to prevent a community from having its own alerting system in sirens. They don't answer that question directly. They will always say that it's the responsibility of the Civil Defence Unit in Thames. So if we can, the question then arises, why in the hell should we manage a siren when it's part of a unit that we pay for? You pay the rates for that. And the advent of this new technology of Whisper coming on board, which is an ideal platform for activating a siren remotely. If it can push SMS messages to you and to computers, to websites, it can certainly activate a siren, because if I had the software on my phone, I could activate the siren. So it becomes a bit of a silly question as to, in my mind, my opinion, is that the unit is responsible. It must listen to the public, must listen to the wishes of the constituents. And of course, we've got an election year coming up, and we're going to get some more councillors. And the question that needs to be put to them, what's their position on sirens? Do they represent the will of the population here? Good questions to ask. So when you have a meet and greet, these people.
What other questions would you ask? What are the things that you're concerned about?
Well, there's a whole myriad of, there's the standard ones, right? So we've got state roads, we've got one-way bridges, we've got an escalating amount of rate debt. The questions are we living beyond our means? What programs are essential? Well, we've got this ongoing water thing. We need to have ideal, healthy drinking water. So there's what I call a layer of issues that are affecting everybody. If you've ever driven down the road to Wharekahu, that one-lane bridge, I used to drive. I recently went down there. Wow, what a bridge! I'd forgotten all about it. But does that need to be replaced?
I think they're focused on the houses on the other side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really?
Maybe.
Okay.
Someone is.
I used to, when I was 5 years old, I used to live at Hikawai, and there was no such thing as tar sealed roads, but there were one-lane bridges, and they're still there. And it's hard to believe that the Coromandel hasn't got rid of one-lane bridges. So there's from what the people of the Coromandel needs, it also comes down to their local issues about what are the important things for Cook's Beach, Hahei, Whirianga, what are the important things for Pauanui. Beach erosion is a common thing today. How are you going to handle that? And it's the increasing amount of indebtedness that in the back of my mind, back of all of our minds, is that we're worried about.
We talk a lot about progress, development. The area is developing, it's growing, it's expanding. It's more people with more power and a better financial position coming to our area. And then by what you're saying, it feels like, what's the point of developing if we might have a bridge that collapses, or we might have a beachfront house that gets inundated? So interesting things to reflect on, right?
Well, the shore management program, which is reaching its conclusion, is a worthwhile discussion for people to attend and to see what are the soft options, what are the hard options, and how that is going to be contributed to by the local population. In Pauanui, we have a group that got together with Coast Care, Waikato Regional Council, Thames Coromandel Council, and they did a big planting. It was the largest planting exercise on the peninsula, and it worked really well.
It's interesting that just the phrasing of what you said then, there's the soft option or the hard option. Immediately I'm thinking, the soft option, so stuff doing something hard, but perhaps a rephrasing. Yeah. An effective option or a more effective option?
Well, using the example of South East Anglia in England, if you do some research on that, you'll find that there's been a number of towns that have had to be evacuated because the encroaching sea. If you look at Holland, they've already got a program to raise the height of their seawall protection 3 meters to 6 meters. So, and that's global warming, or climate change is probably the more accurate word, where they've already started to take effect. So on the peninsula, there's parts of the land rising, parts of it sinking. Climate change is affecting tidal change. So what is the best option? The soft option is to do sand beach replacements, and the hard options are barriers.
So the easy option or the more effective option?
Well, the effective option is often determined whether Mother Nature comes and destroys what you've just put in. Mm-hmm. The greatest armourer in the world.
Nuclear bombs?
No.
Not going to protect it. I was going to say.
No, Mother Nature has a will of her own. Comes along. Yeah.
You've been around, Dave. You traveled around the world.
Yes, I have. Can I just finish with my
I would
the
love
fourth,
to.
fourth
Yeah, I was going to say.
yes,
So we
of
had the
course.
costs.
Yes,
we
were,
had the effectiveness. So the costs were. You've demonstrated it wasn't done properly. The effectiveness wasn't done. The new technologies would be great if they were in place and arranged for our area to fit our population. What was 4?
4 was a statement which was made that scientific evidence shows that we would only have to really worry about if we had a 9 G.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So when you take that's a little bit of outstanding. As we're talking, I'll see if I can find the piece. When you take in Kaikoura and Christchurch, they weren't 9s. They were 6.6 and 7.7. And look at the amount of devastation. And, of course, it's all second guessing as to where these things are going to occur.
Because I suppose, isn't the measurement of, say, 6 or 9 dependent on the location, proximity, and then also the depth?
Yes.
So it's almost, what's the point of giving a number? A 5, 2 meters off the coast. Devastating.
Yeah. This is and this is the fourth point, and I'll read it out. New information on the likelihood of a devastating tsunami arriving along the Coromandel Peninsula, which suggests that because of this information, we don't need to install sirens.
Sorry, that was the end of the sentence. So can you read that again? I was waiting for the follow-up.
Okay, so out of the 4 points that the pragmatic decision was made
to not consult,
it was based on budget duplication, the effectiveness of sirens, new alerting technology, and new information on the likelihood of a devastating tsunami arriving along the Coromandel Peninsula. So in that last one, it makes a suggestion that we don't have to worry.
Because it's less likely.
Because it's less likely.
10% less likely, 50% less likely, 1%, 90% less likely.
Show me your money. So those are the 4 points that made a key decision not to talk to people on the peninsula about their safety. So that's how I got, to answer your question, that's how I became involved, because these points need to have answers to them, and we have discovered what the answers are. So you, on number 44 of your show, when our mayor was here, she made the comment that a thorough investigation had occurred. The answer, again, in my opinion, is that was not done properly at all.
Define thorough.
Yes.
This is good, David. Just to make a point, I want to carry on with that, but it's something that happens sometimes in our shows. People say, "Oh, you had someone who said that," and I'm like, "Well, cool. When do you want to come to the show?" That's exactly what happened with you, wasn't it?
Correct.
So David got in touch and said, "I think that's what Sandra said. It's actually not what I think it is, and what are we going to do?" I say, "You are going to come to the show then." So
if you're listening and you think, "Yeah, that David guy sounds like bollocks," well, contact the show.
Reach out. This is a space nowadays with people not having much belief in media. We have to be careful when we say alternative media, because it doesn't mean that we're full of shit or we're coming up with information. We're simply providing a platform for people to chat, and then we hope that different opinions will come up. And when someone brings information that we can actually go back to and get the facts, things become clearer, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
So all this documentation has been obtained legally. It's all recorded. It's on the Tsunami Siren Silenced Facebook page. And you can, they're all posted. There's no secret on that.
For those listening, Tsunami Siren Silenced, Tsunami starts with a T, so TSS.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see how that'd be confusing.
Yes, I can. But if you posted our links on your ALTBAYS, that would alert people. The important thing is that we're discussing is that we're coming up to an election and we need voters. People on the Coromandel should walk the walk and talk the talk, get out and vote, because the people that are coming to make up the new council, we need to know who they are, what their contributions have been on the public platform, because we do not want to have a reproduction of an opinion process which discarded the welfare of the people on the peninsula.
A thing you didn't bring up about all of it, which was something that it seemed absurd to me, is that the sirens are part of the culture. So I can speak for only Whitianga being here. We trust and we knew the system. We go, okay, we know, we listen, we understand it's not a call for us, it's a call for the services to help out. That's cool.
Yes.
We understand it. The kids understand it. Children understand it.
Yes.
You then change that system. Well, then the kids won't understand it. The adults don't understand it. The elderly aren't going to understand it.
Yeah.
And if you implement, I get the idea of a cloud system and an app on your phone. Okay, well, what percentage of the elderly population, which is the majority here, are going to understand that? They might ask the younger people, oh, we don't have that technology yet. It just, there's a lot of, it's not even a grey area. It's just, there's a lot of vacuous nonsense going on, which must be just, I don't know, I'm getting frustrated. I've not really thought about it. I don't really care about it until now. Now
Yes.
I want to vote.
You want to vote?
Now I'm going to vote. You know, I was going to ignore it before after all the other talks, but now, since talking to you.
No, get out there and vote, because we need to know what our future is going to be.
Sorry.
No, and what you're saying actually fits for anyone in the world, right? It's such a great advice. You know, we brought this up a few times in the show, the importance of engaging with politics not only a week before the election, or not by saying, oh, it's not my thing.
Yeah.
Well, they're making decisions for you, so it is your thing. Sorry, it's a system that operates like that. If you don't care, don't complain.
No, you can't. So the invitation that I'll give on to your show is if any group or anybody wants to know more and I can walk them through this, I'm happy to do so, whether it's by telephone, Zoom call, or in person. So it's important. The demographics process that we followed, we found out by accident that the oldest population in the country is in Pawanui, followed very closely by Tairua. And one of the obvious questions that comes out is that, how do I find this on my phone? So groups within the community which have become very relevant, very important, and a must to know and join are senior net groups throughout the community. If there's one in your town, please go along, because they will show you Geo app, the Red Cross Hazard app. They will talk you through putting it on your phone.
I suppose it's also possibly worth saying, also, if you have children, ask them. And if you're their children, be patient.
Yes.
Yeah, take a deep breath, have a couple of cups of tea ready.
Well, often a grandparent will receive a phone and as a gift, or be enticed to purchase one, and then they will say, but how does it work? And we often have this in senior net forums, is that how do you do that? Or what is it doing now? Or how do I get to that? And it takes time, because as you know, all the models are quite different.
I wonder if it's less user friendly, because I think the older generation, your generation, you used to if there's a user manual that tells you how to use something, there was a logical sequence format for learning knowledge. Whereas a lot of technology nowadays is here you go, it's all done for you. Just swipe, touch, swiggle your finger around and go, what? No. Where's the step-by-step process?
Yes. Oh, well, if you've ever been in the process of writing manuals, doing a step-by-step process becomes very, very important, because if you fail to do that, let's take in airplanes, for example.
Segue, I can hear it coming.
A checklist. If you fail to follow the checklist, you could end up crashing the aircraft. So step-by-step instructions, whilst they may sound boring, can actually save your life.
Can I hit this segue? So we're talking a lot about very interesting information with regards to 30 Sirens, but I want to know a bit more about who are you? I want to go back in time. Where are you from, and how did you come to be an adult working in various fields? Is that too broad?
Yeah, I think the part about how did I become an adult would probably defy
I was 18
any
years
answer.
old.
Yeah, 74-year-olds going on 12. I originally born in Auckland, raised in Matamata College through my teen years, became a mechanic, then got the bug to start flying, learnt to fly.
Oh, okay. You've just done about 23 years. Can you start there? So learn to fly. Where'd you learn to fly?
I learnt to fly with the Waikato Aero Club, and then later on became an instructor at the Aero Club. They were fun days. One of my favourite pastimes was to take aeroplanes from the Hamilton base and take them down to Tikawiti, Aotearoa, because there were keen satellite communities down there. So to arrange flying of aeroplanes, you can't fly 3 aeroplanes at once, impossible. So get a couple of guys who are building their hours up, give them discounted flights. You bring this aeroplane and we'll all go down. So I would do the instructing for the day, and the satellite club would do the flying, enjoy their time. And so that was a Saturday. And then
What does it take to be an instructor? Is it a number of hours? Is it a matter of training? Is it certification? Or how's that work?
it's accumulation of hours, and then the ability to instruct in an aircraft.
That's mean. So it's the ability to instruct simply, look, you've flown for 6,000 hours. You got this. On you go.
You can explain well.
No. Well, it goes back in history about when people learned to fly. The basic rule was there were a lot of original single-seater aircraft. So people learned to fly by one person standing on the wing, looking at the guy who was flying the airplane and seeing what he was doing. So that evolved so that we have two spaces.
I'm sort of stuck here wondering how much you're living there, because it's beautifully done. You said it so well.
So we end up with two seats, and then somebody can follow through, and then we end up with how do you communicate to somebody in the front. And they ended up with something called the Gosport tube, which is a headset usually made out of leather with similar sort of cans that we've got on today, except that it was a tube. So you spoke into the tube, and the voice came through the tube and told you what to do. So you had a duplicate set of controls, and that's how you learnt to fly. So the Gosport tube, in terms of evolution into aviation, was a masterpiece. And then pending war, of course, how many people, when you need more pilots, there was a guy called the Great Smith Barry, who was known, his subtitle, the man who taught the world's air forces how to fly. So he set up a training program in England where pilots were trained en masse. It evolved from that. So the ability to be able to relate to somebody on how to fly the airplane, what controls, what will make the aircraft change direction, climb, descend, spin, and recover, all of those things are part of being able to teach. So more modern aircraft where you don't need to yell at somebody through a tube, and you're sitting side by side in a nice, comfortable cabin with normal voice communication, and the ability to relate what the aircraft is doing, and the person can replicate that and keep themselves safe while they're flying. So, it ends up with a pattern. So you end up with a pattern of tuition. So what do you teach first? what is the next lesson? So you build up on the
Adjusting
lessons.
seat belt, is that first? Or how to close the...
Yes, getting in the aeroplane is always an issue. Having the seat not collapse on you is also an issue. Been a number of aircraft accidents have occurred by the seat coming off the rails.
Did I hear many years ago that they tried to design the perfect seat for an aircraft that would fit the average measurements of every person, and they designed the seat and it didn't fit any person? I think I was watching Stephen Fry on QI talking about that. This big research is going to design the perfect seat to match someone that's this tall or that tall. We're going to get the average thing, and no one could sit in it comfortably. The hands are wrong, the legs are wrong, the back was wrong.
Well, anatomically, we're all different, so I don't know. I don't know about that story, but having sat in a number of aircraft seats, they're never comfortable, and having sat in some of them for 10 and 12 hours at a time, I can definitely say that they're not that comfortable.
Is it a bit like riding a bike, though? It's really uncomfortable the first sort of 10 rides, and eventually your body gets used to it.
Oh, I think it goes into numb mode. Here we are again. Yeah.
How did the investigator thing came about?
It started when I joined the Civil Aviation Authority here. We were all assigned different districts, and if there was an event, the Civil Aviation Authority had some responsibility to look into it. When there are crashes, there's usually an independent body, a safety body, which apportions no blame, but they just want to see what caused the accident. And so their investigations are relatively benign. It's a no punishment process.
Were you part of the investigation of a big event, of something?
Yes, yes. I used to. That was part of my role when I was in Australia. It was called BASI, the Bureau of Air Safety Investigation. Then it was changed to the Air Transport Safety Bureau. But I was on the regulator side. So usually, historically, what has happened is that if there's an accident where death has occurred, the regulatory authority will stand back and they are required by law to stand back a little bit and allow the assigned authority, whatever they're called, to use the guidance issued under ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization, Annex 13, which is the air crash manual, and they follow that process to investigate the causal factors into how this event happened. And I emphasize causal factors. There's never one cause. It's a collection of events. It's often referred to as the Swiss cheese model. So if you hold up pieces of Swiss cheese, when all of the factors line up, an event can happen. So an aircraft can drive itself into a hill or do something else. So that's the guidance material. So they are allowed to do that unhindered, but the regulatory authority hasn't historically had a hands-off. But in my opinion, that's not a very good outcome. So we went to also, we're part of that investigation team, but when we start to find things which are breaches of regulations, that's when it becomes quite serious into who may have done something which has caused the aircraft to crash. NTSB in the United States has a great program for that. They investigate why this thing happened, and then once the decisions have been made, then the court, case is open to individual cases of legal claim or a group claim, class actions.
There must be so much sabotage and things going on. Oh, well, You because how are you gonna take things from one country to another? You know, like sometimes you gotta find a way. So I guess it can be quite stressful at some stages to have that responsibility.
I'm still trying to think of, so what's the certification? Because I've asked twice now, like, so how do you get certified? Because is it like a mate's club or, he's pretty good, he's flown for hours, he'll take the job?
No, the requirement is that you accumulate the hours, you show your proficiency, you demonstrate that to an appointed government testing officer whose responsibility to say, yes, he deems you a fit and proper person to undertake this task, and awards a level which is associated with your hours. So you could become a CCAT instructor, which is a BCAT instructor, or an ACAT.
A is the highest.
A is the highest.
So I have no idea. I think I know something, but flying a two-seater is obviously very different to 400 passengers as a flying vehicle.
So that's a license difference. So you end up with a student pilot license, private pilot license. Now, with the advent of sports and recreation, there's a whole regime of licensing again. In going in towards the professional side, there's a commercial pilot license, accrued hours, experience, exams, skill in the aircraft is tested. Then you go on to an airline transport pilot license, depending on what country you are
So
from.
this idea that, shit, Dave, the plane's going down. Has anyone flown a small, like a two-seater, three-seater thing? It's not going to help. Like, yeah, I've flown so many thousand hours, but it doesn't relate, does it? The classes of plane. Like, if you went in there in an emergency, 2 minutes to try and turn something around. I mean, you've had experience with, I guess, the commercial stuff, but the everyday local pilot.
No, well, it was the old joke about a pilot went up to the flight deck of a 747 and proudly announced that he had a single pilot license, and if there was any emergency, he would like to help. And the captain turned and said, when the other three engines fail, I'll give you a call.
Yay!
Yes.
Okay. No, that's awful. But
No, I liked it. It's just we're trying to get our tech man over there. You're doing good.
So, so it's an accumulation of license levels. All of those qualifications are set down internationally by the international standards.
Are there bodies, I imagine there'll be bodies around the world that won't follow those standards or won't join in or deem themselves independent?
There have been some issues in the past where license have been obtained through nefarious means and have later on shown up as that the pilot who was in the event was not suitably qualified.
Do you remember
the history of that?
Do you remember cases that really intrigued you, that you had to go through, and it came to you that you were just like a puzzle, something?
Well, all accidents are a puzzle, and the quote that I often is that you don't know until you know, and then you don't know, because on average, when there's an event where there was a loss of human life, there's an initial report which just states the fact: an aircraft, this event hit the hill, persons were deceased, and that's marks it in the calendar of events. Then you go on to do the investigation. On average, it takes between 2 years, 2.5 years, possibly longer, in the case where there's multiple deaths, to find out. Now, it's not only finding out why it happened, but all of the casualties, all the people that passed away in that event, the relatives have to be spoken with. Whatever you're going to write as a report has to be identified that they've been interviewed, and the content of the report is factual.
So I take it there's specialist forensic teams that they go to the crash site and they tape it out, map it,
Yes.
and document every single possible thing.
Yes. that's where the OKO manual relates as to the step-by-step process and all these things that you should do, what various bodies should do in the event. So
a forensic investigator in that case would be part of an international scheme, like, as in they're all taught in the same skills, the same way. It doesn't matter the country. They're investigating a plane crash, so this is the skills that come.
Yeah, there's a skill set. So there are countries in England you can go to a school who will take you through this. In the United States, there was one in Australia, but I don't know if they continue to do that. But so there's a skill set that is required, and if it's on the job training, a person going into a new investigation unit will be monitored or mentored as to skill development.
How many people would have those sorts of jobs? Is it a job that's busy or understaffed, or?
Depending on the range, size of the country. Australia has quite a large group because of the diversity of the activity there. It's a bit mind-boggling when you look at aeroplanes involved with crocodile hunting, egg hunting, which is quite a bizarre thing.
All right. I didn't expect that.
Gliding, hang gliding, sports aviation, helicopter activity of every kind in the world, regional airlines, international airlines. It's a very large activity, and with that you'll get varying degrees of events in various disciplines.
That's brilliant, because one of the things I talk about is being a teacher at school. The amount of times you hear, what sort of career do you want to do? What do you want to be a vet or teacher, or like, how about a sort of a forensic investigator in terms of like planes crashing? What? That's a thing? Like, there's so many jobs out there, and different people we talk about different countries and places and jobs. You're like, oh, that's a thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's like specialist activities about, even in photography. We all grow up with a camera, we all take photos, but who would ever think that it could lead to a career in a police force, in an army investigations unit?
Jack Reacher.
Yes.
Police investigator.
Next movie, please.
New actor, please. A bit taller. I want 6'4". That's what he's meant to be.
Oh, okay.
Not 5'5", whatever he is.
Yeah. So you end up with
sorry, Tom Cruise.
Technical aspects which can lead from school into quite a varying career.
Did you fly a lot around the world as a pilot before starting to be an investigator? Did you get tired? Did you get bored? Was it too much?
I got a little tired of the colour beige. But that's the Boeing flight deck colour. But I did have the opportunity to fly into quite a lot of places: Vietnam, Myanmar, which was formerly Burma, and that was a very interesting time warp. When I first went there, I couldn't believe that they were still driving British Army trucks as a common piece of transport around the place. It was just fascinating. It was like going back in time. So through the Middle East, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, because the company that I was working with started a hub into Europe. So through Dubai into London, from Abu Dhabi into Frankfurt, from Bahrain into Zurich, and fascinating. So you end up seeing a lot of the world and being exposed to a wide range of cultures.
Dubai and Heathrow, they're the two biggest airports? So Heathrow and Dubai, I think?
Dubai is huge.
Yeah.
I haven't done a comparison, but they're big airports, and Dubai has grown quite considerably, along with Heathrow has grown considerably.
So I went through a wee while, it's been 2 years ago, I went through, and you get off the plane and you catch a bus of 15 minutes to get in to the actual airport.
Yes, it's over there somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah, like 15 minutes. And
Yeah,
hanging onto your railings with all your luggage,
Wow.
your hand luggage, yeah.
yeah.
How was the thing with jet lag? Was it hard to deal with jet lag?
Yes,
I
it
always
was.
wonder about that with pilots.
Yeah. You can equate jet lag with intoxication. And they tried to find out what the right formula for jet lag. And there was a study done by a professor at Adelaide University. Can't remember his name, but people can't grasp what is jet lag. You're tired, but how tired? And how tired do you need to be before mistakes are made? Critical in an aircraft if you're overtired, making mistakes. So the equivalent is drunkenness. So it equates quite nicely to how much alcohol a body would consume before you become irresponsible. And that can be applied to a lot of professions. And I'm very surprised that in this country that fatigue and the association with drunkenness is not associated with fatigue for doctors and nurses because it's a nice marriage of convenience to say, how would you feel if the doctor that was prescribing your heart surgery had been on duty for 18 hours and had the equivalent level of alcohol? Would you be happy about
Actually, I'd love to read that.
decision making? But it's been a struggle for around the world for the study to find to hang your hat on, and that it seems to be the easiest one to do.
Because I suppose the thing about being tired is it's like one beer is the equivalent to having gone to work, cooked dinner, and put the kids to bed.
What are you drinking, by the way?
This is a Coromandel from the Bluefridge Brewery. Thank you, Adam. It's a bloody beautiful brew. I like it. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Carry on.
But the idea, one of these is, just a regular day at work. And the second one, though, that's if you stay up to watch sport till maybe 10, maybe something's in Australia, 11:30.
Yeah.
Once you have your fourth one, all of a sudden it's midnight, playing Xbox or whatever. You take your fifth one, all of a sudden it's 3 in the morning, so you decide to watch the England beating New Zealand tonight, because they probably will, comfortably.
But hopefully you're at home, curled up on the couch,
Yes.
and not going to endanger anybody.
Well, not driving the car.
And not driving the car, and not endangering anybody by doing that.
David, you live in Pauanui, which seems to be a peaceful place. When you look back in life, would you say that you worked a lot? You worked like not a lot, because obviously you did, but I mean like hours, amount of work. We're just talking about this thing with, I often bring this up in the show, how people sometimes are even proud to say that they're busy. It's not even a thing like, oh man, I'm busy. Like, I wish I was less busy. No, it's like, I'm busy. So looking back, do you think you worked like long hours?
It's an insidious thing that if you take the aviation issue, is that you can do, it's regulated, but the fact that you're going from one time zone to another is accumulative. And I used to do what I call back-to-back Frankfurts. So I was living in Brunei at the time, and it got to the point where I was only living in my house in Brunei for 2 days in a month. The rest of the time I was out going somewhere to eventually end up in Frankfurt, coming back the same route structure backwards. And
Strike one.
Doing. And we... it's accumulative. So you are tired all the time and irritable, snappy. So it's not a good scene. But being busy, as you have said, with the work that I have done in civil aviation authorities, that can also be insidiously inclusive of gradual increases in fatigue by the subject matter, because it's not just one subject. Flying an airplane, but then you're ending up with other issues in that area of the amount of subject matter. So you have to think about crocodile hunting from helicopters as one, gliding, air incidents, an airline that's not behaving itself properly.
So does that mean that you could be involved in this job and in a given 4 months, you've not done the same thing once?
No.
You've had to learn a new tourist attraction and work out what the hell was their protocols. How do we look at this from their point of view? So
it was often a joke on a Friday is that, what did you do this week? And I, because of my position in the organisation, I wasn't allowed to speak about everything I did, but this was a thing that my colleagues used to say, and what did you do? And I go, I can't talk about that. No. So I went back to the office one day and I thought I'd write down a list of what I could tell them I was doing. And then when the question came the next time at having a few beers on a Friday.
So Dave, what did you do this week then? What did you do?
So I pulled out the list and said, this is what I can talk about. Pick any one of those.
Made a coffee. Open up the computer.
Oh yes, yeah. Like one of the silliest ones was I got to tell you a story about Mr. Google. In my workstation, I was sat next to the man who dealt with recreational ballooning and passenger ballooning. So, and he wasn't there that day, and my boss walked in and he said, "Where's the balloon guy?" And I said, "He's not here." He said, "Oh God, can you call Google? They want something to do with balloons." And I immediately thought, it's a recreational promotional thing, right? So I rang Mr. Google, got the number, Google, yeah. And you want to do what? They fly it that high? Yes, in the above 37,000 feet. Yes. Where do you want these to come from? Well, they're currently in the air at the moment, and they're coming your way, and we would like them to fly over Australian territory. I'll get back to you. So this is a early event for having internet supplied to places around the world by balloons that talk to each other in a group, flying around in the above 37,000 feet, and the airflow up at that high goes from west to east at the lower levels, and east to west in the upper levels. So depending on where you put the balloon, and they're all adjustable in height,
wow,
you can travel these balloons around the world. So little bit by little bit, it's like eating your cereal. By crunch, we ended up with a story that they were being released out of Christchurch, flying over South America, and then they were being picked up. They would sometimes fall into the sea. All these were pre-programmed, and they would provide internet over South America. And you can imagine the jungles of South America don't have a great deal of infrastructure. So it was a matter of being able to provide communications. And this was a program put out by Google. And little did I know that I ended up, because once I told the balloon guy this was happening, he didn't want to have a bar of it. He said, "It's yours." So I ended up trying to work out how do we get balloons into Australian airspace legally, and would they have to interact with air traffic control? So it was a long story short. But one of the things, the discoveries you find, is that who owns bits of the country? So the military obviously have their grasp on territory and airspace. And then you find out all these other subgroups, that there's a university of somewhere that owns a kilometre diameter of airspace that goes from ground level to infinity. And when you ask, what are you doing in there? You can't tell you that. And you have to envisage that these balloons have to be navigated so that they
don't cross or they
don't interfere. So, we ended up with a test where balloons were going to be released, and we were given a computer program to monitor these balloons as they were coming. But we ended up also having to tell all the air traffic control units that this was happening. So teaming up with air traffic control, gave the briefings, recorded every individual that attended a briefing. The day was coming, and they're coming up over from South Africa, coming towards Perth, and my phone started to ring. And it was, are you Dave Yeomans? Yeah. What are those bloody balloons doing? What are those things coming towards us? I've been told that you can tell us. And I said, those are the balloons that we talked about. Excuse me, what's your name? They tell me the name. Go down the list. Yes, you attended a meeting on such and such a day, and you were briefed at 2:00 on this event. So how can I help you? Because you know about this. Silence. I said, if there are any problems or any more questions, give me a call. And so these balloons came along. It was just fascinating to see them go from Perth, go past Sydney, and continue on to New Zealand.
Did you go on a trip?
No,
the balloons?
No, they're all. You can't do that.
But have you ever? Have you ever?
No.
Jumped in a balloon?
No.
That would be cool, man.
No.
No?
No. There are things that you don't want to do for me, and that is parachute out of a perfectly maintained aircraft, and the other one is go up in a balloon.
What about UFOs? Have you seen something in the sky? They were like, whoa, whoa, that's not a balloon.
Yeah, I have actually.
Yes.
There was a star cluster that came out of when we were flying over the desert. I can't remember what the phenomena was called, but the whole clusters of meteorites that came in, and by the time they got to Earth atmosphere, they were totally dissolved. But it was quite fascinating to be at altitude and looking out into the dark in the night sky, seeing these brilliantly, like little globes coming down, showering down towards Earth, and then just disappearing. And I thought, I wonder if one of those is going to hit us.
Yeah. Some interference.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah. That was an interesting phenomenon.
I was thinking about Area 51 when you said about like these things with places, you know, like this is an area from a university, or like you cannot interfere. You know, like so many areas around the world that we have no clue about what's going on. You know, like, and you think like people like you or people who are really into the airspace, it doesn't mean that you know everything, right? There are places that you just cannot know.
Well, there's people who won't tell you because for the first place, how would you know they were there and what they were doing? No one's going to advertise if they're doing something for national security or... but there are areas that are designated where you shouldn't fly for obvious reasons. A good one would be volcanoes that are erupting. That's not a good thing.
You'd hope you'd be able to see it and go, air traffic control, there's literally spewing lava and gas. And
Don't throw that away, because we did have an incident where one company in New Zealand did on their regular route divert so that they could show the passengers.
Oh, down.
Erupting. They were tapped on the shoulder and said, stop doing that. But there are areas, of course, where you shouldn't fly. You know, so over refineries, you shouldn't fly. You shouldn't fly over a nuclear power plant. And you should definitely keep away from the White House.
Strange how you went to Area 51 and immediately that was your take from these navigating. I just thought, talk about big boys and their toys. Yeah, hi. Yeah, can we just fly over your country? In fact, can we fly over every bloody country? Can you work out how we're going to do it? Thanks, we're Google. Like, there's a certain level of hierarchy of power there.
Well, it was interesting because, and the effect...
Did they pay for these services?
Yes. They did. Because of the legal requirements to produce paperwork for them to do that. There's fees involved. But the humanity issues are quite interesting as well. So when Puerto Rico had a severe weather disruption and destroyed a lot of infrastructure, they were able to deploy balloons and steer them down to be in the area of Puerto Rico and restore telephone communication within 3 days. And that's the significance of it. But nowadays it's sort of been, they've stopped the program, but it was just testing the theory of that. Could it be done? Now we've got low-level satellites, and the man who makes the Tesla.
Elon Musk, SpaceX.
Woohoo! Okay, and so there's more technology available. So when we talk about volcanoes going off, say in Tonga, who was contacted?
Wasn't me. Mr. Musk.
Mr. Musk, who made a promissory commitment to supply communications to them. So
it's quite cool.
It is cool. Where does music fit in the life story, Mr. David?
Well, open mic. This is a plug for open mic Pawanui. Open mic is run by a dear chap called Mr. Gary Tom. He and his wife Suzanne run the program, and the community participates in that. Musicians come from all over. So we have regulars from Hamilton, Coromandel, Whirianga, Whangamata, everywhere. And the encouragement is that if on the last Sunday of every month, if you want to participate, doesn't matter if you bring a comb and put some paper and blow through it, you're welcome to participate. Any genre of songs is permitted.
Any genre?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Heavy metal, death metal,
Screamo.
Yeah. Screamo.
Yeah. If you choose something that I don't like, I'll be standing outside. But
fair enough.
That's a lovely attitude to have, actually.
Yes.
It's not for me, but that's cool. I'll just move away from it. Thank you. You're wonderful. I like you.
And you guys actually have a band backing up the artists if they know the song, obviously.
Yeah.
That's cool.
There's a core group. I think one of the events that we had 8 guitars playing at once.
Gosh.
And that was a bit OT. I felt some of my fillings in my teeth reverberating to the strings. I thought...
Well, don't chew on them. That's one of the keys.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a fun night. We had one last night. It went off well. We had a sound technician that came and fine-tuned the microphones for singers, and so it went really down.
So does it work a lot like a live band karaoke night, or genuinely a lot of musicians come and plug in with the house band, or they house band boot off, we've got a set we're going to do, or a mix?
There's a mix, right? So you, from experience, we've identified that you can't have too many guitarists.
How about drummers? Can we have 3 drummers at once?
Well, there's only one set of drums, but we have had various drummers arrive, and the more the merrier. So if you're at a loose end and you want to have some fun, everybody's friendly in Pawanui.
What is your go-to? What do you sing on the open mic?
Well, I think for my taste is what I can sing and what I can get away with, right? So there are
Cyndi
songs.
Lauper.
Professional. I like that. That's it.
So there are songs that I love to listen to, and but my voice range is limited, so I can't sing that. So I've tried to find songs that I can sing, like Charlie Rich and Anthony Newley. Shows my age, but
I have
nevertheless,
no idea. Anthony Newley. Who's that?
is a famous English singer.
Could you drop us a line so we can have a little listen?
Yes, yeah, I can drop you a line. Yeah. What? No, you want me? You can't sing now.
Oh, I was going to get a riff it off.
Okay, I could do that. If I say I love you, do you mind? Make an idol of you, do you mind? Goes on like that. So, yay, and the crowd goes.
Beautifully done. That was lovely.
So, it's going through hours of research for what I like and what I think the audience would like to hear. But primarily it's for my being selfish. It's been my entertainment and hoping that somebody would like my choice.
Fair enough.
And I think that's the enjoyment of it, because we end up with a wide range of songs that come from decades old, to right up to the modern stuff.
Do you have any good story, like someone who came to the open mic and a story that really marked you?
Yeah, I can talk about the people locally, is that they've all matured in their singing, and there is the phrase, they own the song. But actually say witness to that has actually happened. There are singers that have developed, and when they sing that song, although it's been sung by many other people, when they're singing it in that atmosphere, at that place, at that time, they own that song. And I can remember when we first started, we were all a bit nervous. We didn't know each other. So it's a matter of getting to know each other, feeling comfortable, getting guidance on how to use microphones.
You ever injured yourself, fallen off stage, or had an injury like that? Or any of the other performers bugger themselves up?
No, thank God we've only got one level. So you can't fall. You can't fall off the floor. You can fall on the floor, but we haven't. Fortunately, I've never done that.
There was a story though that you were telling us before of someone who came for the open mic and said something about, oh, my partner can sing a song.
Oh,
was
yes,
something like that.
Yes. Occasionally, we will have an enthusiastic attendee who will, on behalf of a person that doesn't know what's about to happen, sponsor them to sing her a song. So, with my partner in crime, Christine, Christine usually runs the tally board as to who's going to sing.
Shout out to Christine.
And does a marvellous job, by the way. And I'm usually there walking around talking to people, and a young lady came up and said, my boyfriend is really enthusiastic, would like to sing. And I said, yep, where is he? Over there. So let's go. What do you want to sing? Told me the story. Yeah, I think the band might know that. Do you need anything? He said, I wouldn't mind borrowing a guitar. We can get you a guitar. Came up and got a guitar, playing with a pick. And he is really going into the song. And it was magnificent. And of course the crowd was saying, yes, more. So he did another one. And it's usually a 2-song limit, and then the next performer. So when he handed back the guitar, I'm looking at it and it's covered in blood. And I go, what happened? He said, when I was playing, he said he struck the string and it cut the top off his finger. But he still kept playing.
Rock and
roll.
roll.
He did 2 songs, bleeding all over the
Blood,
all over
sweat
the place.
and tears. I love it.
So I gave it back to the owner, And
With a flannel.
but that's the kind of thing. So we're a little bit flexible. The board is moving, so people have to be a bit relaxed about being shuffled around as to when they get to sing their favourite song.
Plus, if you get shuffled backwards, you get to be the feature on the night.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I'll close up the show. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah, we try.
I'm loving this. We got some questions and comments from our audience. If you don't mind, I'm gonna read some of them. Pretty cool ones. So our friend Taylor, it's a member of the audience tonight. How cool is that? And
I'm glad he's not here.
Yeah, and he made a comment right at the start of the show, but it's worth it saying.
Who's Taylor?
Who's Taylor? Hey, damn. When you said about the price of the 5 million, he said 5 million. Give me 2 million, and I'll make a siren that people will be able to hear from Auckland. Good man. He could. I think he's pretty hands-on.
It'll be loud. Probably
It would be loud.
obnoxious too.
And Enzek says, these misleading Huyas need David Yeomans to check, direct, and connect these dots to dot costs. I love this man's passion for what he is and for what he is an expert. For what he is an expert in. More so, his honest sense of justice.
Well, thank you very much.
That's cool.
But I'm not an expert.
Well, you know a lot, right? A specialist, let's say.
Let's say.
Specialist.
Who's
RT says, what an awesome discussion. So informative. And Danny Doon says, I would like to know if they have an opinion about the flight MH370.
That's the one Malaysian flight that went missing.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that because I don't know all the facts. So it would be incorrect of me to just make a comment.
That's a beautiful comment to make in itself. I love that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. You're doing what they didn't.
George Smith says, very informative show, dudes. Thank you. Congrats. Dave, would you know which is the most unsafe commercial aircraft to fly and your worst experience flying?
Well, history shows that design of aircraft has been a major factor in catastrophes. So some of the early English aircraft that had square windows were the first to depressurize, and that's a design fault. So over the years, there have been some design faults. The DC-10 had a particular issue that it could lose control of all of its controls if some of the wiring and control cables were severed. This happens when...
They shouldn't have put it beside the cutlery drawer on the ship, just...
Yeah. I think worst experience I had. Early days flying. I was coming into Thames in a Cessna 150 and the radio caught fire.
Oh.
And suddenly the cockpit of the aircraft filled up with smoke. So fortunately I had an airfield directly below me, so I pulled all the circuit breakers that I could and opened up the windows and landed. And for a novice pilot, that was a bit scary.
Wow.
But it was...
So you said the radio.
The radio.
Sorry, you don't mean like CFM? You're talking about communications radio.
Communications radio. Those were old valve models, so there's a lot of heat generated by old valve radios. And
amplifiers on.
Yeah, so you end up with the first thing, of course, that tells you there's a problem is your nose.
Jeez.
Something's burning. There's a song about that. But
what about as a passenger? Have you ever commercial flights? Any experiences as a passenger on a big airline?
I can tell you a funny one. I won't talk about serious ones, but I can tell you a funny one. Is we're on a flight coming into Australia, and the senior steward came up and said, we have a passenger down the back who's very disruptive and is distressing the other passengers. And the story came out that he was intoxicated, drunk as a skunk, is the appropriate word. And he had bought bottles of alcohol in Dubai, and we were at that time a dry airline, so no alcohol served. But he had managed to consume these things and steadily got to a state where he was intoxicated. And in his behavioural pattern, he had distressed the passengers so much because what he'd done is he'd plugged all the headsets into the seats and created a cocoon of sound around him, which he was quite happily bibbing and bopping to as the flight went on. But the senior steward said, passengers are getting really distressed. So, okay, not a problem. Quietly move all the passengers to the front into business class. Do it nice and quietly so he doesn't notice. And so we found out what zone he was in. So he's in zone 3. So you can control the temperature of those zones. So we turned the heat up. So alcohol and heat does the trick. He went off to sleep. So, but he woke up eventually and continued his rampage. So on the way down, this is going into Brisbane. We had a discussion about it. So we contacted the federal through the air traffic control. Contacted the federal authorities to say that the aircraft must be met by federal police officers. So the instructions to the senior cabin steward was, when he goes out, the officers will be standing in the finger of the aircraft, and don't say anything, but just point that's the person. And he was duly escorted to the terminal. So we finished our paperwork, and we got off the aeroplane thinking, well, that's done and dusted, right? Got the nuisance. But he was in the terminal with 5 police officers around him. And then when we came through, 2 of them peeled off to come and talk to us. And we had a talk about how they were going to charge him, because this was a new event, especially since the federal police had taken over policing of international airports in Australia. So we're standing there, and he is a large man, and he's an angry man, and he's an angry drunk man who now wants to have a cigarette. And he's pulling out his cigarettes out of his pocket, and the police officer is saying to him, do not light that cigarette. It's a federal offence. And of course, their parentage was adjusted and told where to go, and he put this thing in his mouth. And in a blink of an eye, I saw a policeman go past me, airborne, and hit this man full in the chest, and he was on the ground. And the rattle of handcuffs came out, and he was cuffed and taken away. Did the story stop there? No.
Oh.
The police followed us to the hotel, and for the next 3 or 4 hours, we were filling out the paperwork. Oh. But he eventually was charged and fined and jailed, which was the first event of that type in Australian history where a passenger was declared a nuisance and got jailed.
Wow.
Yeah.
So not only don't drink and drive, kids, pay attention to...
Don't drink and fly.
Don't drink and fly.
Don't airport and smoke.
Not a good idea. Another comment... Brilliant. Do you drink in the airplane, Fabian, when you catch a flight?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
Flying out to China, I think we paid for a ticket that came with alcohol, so we could have as much Chinese beer, and it was always room temperature. That was an issue.
Ah, the drinks were room temperature.
And I prefer it cold, but that's because I guess I'm me.
What's the Chinese drink? Soju? What's the
Tsingtao?
Tsingtao?
But then they had another one which is a white can. which is quite nice. Well, it was a beer on a flight. I had to be on for hours, so why not?
Fair enough. RT says, true, Dave. Never jumping out of a good plane, but hot air balloons, amazing. Done it 3 times. You are the air. Airspeed equals 0. Just a air balloon fan making a comment here.
Good.
There you go. And Hanako asked the question, but actually you already answered that question. She asked if you have seen UFOs while flying aircrafts anyway.
No, I've not seen any little green men whilst I've been flying. Sometimes I've thought I've seen them on the ground, but they were special circumstances.
After those drinks, after the open mic.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that, Papa Nui.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, Dave. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Would you like to, before we finish, just to go back to the main thing with the tsunami? You already gave us good advice. Pay attention to who you're voting for. Listen to what's happening around. Is there anything that you would like to tell our audience and the people watching you that we should be mindful of?
Yes, ask them what their opinion is of having sirens on the peninsula, and don't elect anybody into a position of authority that says, I will look into it, because his nickname will be Mirrors. They need to be responsible. They need to have an opinion on that subject. We need to know who they are. Are they qualified to be in that position? We need to have some degree of confidence that the people that are elected to guide us into the future have the responsibility to cap the ever-increasing costs for the average person on the peninsula.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Roberts, thank you so much. Would you like to add something to that?
Oh, well, not really. I think you've covered it pretty well. I think going through those 4 points that were mentioned was quite revealing in a way. I hadn't looked too deeply in it, but you obviously have, and you presented some pretty interesting findings and their own words and their own documents to support their anti-findings. It's a hard way to express. Well, if someone comes with the council that wants to dispute and demonstrate some other documents and that you're a complete fraudulent person, I'd be fascinated to be on that chat as well.
The invitation is open.
It is absolutely open. If you are part of that Elect 9 that I commented about, high-fiving about this bullet point system, I'd love to be a part of that chat.
Cool. I will keep that in mind.
Nice. Otherwise, I've enjoyed myself. What a nice man. He's just nice.
He is.
I like him.
Yeah. He's convincing us to go to the open mic night, eh?
Yeah. Dave Yeomans. He's the man in the know. Cheers, Leo.
Thanks, Hector. Thanks, Brett.
No problem.
The boss.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Wow. Hey, we're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. What a cool week. We have Stephanie Anderson coming on Wednesday. She's a yoga teacher, fantastic woman. She knows a lot about our physiology. She's going to give us a class here. And on Friday, we have Mary Johnson. She's opening a Tipuna in Fitsianga, and if you don't know what it is, you should tune in and learn something new. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, listen to our shows on the main podcast platforms, tell your friends about it. Make sure that you also comment on our videos. That really helps and supports our platform. This has been fun. I will see you guys on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Thanks, guys.
Woohoo!
Peace. Oh.
ALTBAYS. ALTBAYS.
ALTBAYS.